Hello and welcome to another episode of Mitten Backstage. Thanks so much for joining us. Today, I am chatting with Hundo, a wonderful artist who currently lives in Lansing, Michigan, although she is known for her metal exploits all around West Michigan. We chat about what we both learned during the pandemic, goals we have as musicians, and her tireless efforts to support so many wonderful creatives and humans in the Michigan music scene. If you liked today's episode and you want to contribute to my podcasting efforts, you can head on over to patreon.com/Tracy Snedeker. There, you can get early access to all the podcast episodes, exclusive merch, a mailed newsletter, and more. You can also head over to DutcherSnedeker.com to see everything that I'm up to currently around the internet. And if you also dig this podcast episode, you can feel free to like, subscribe, support, wherever you happen to be watching or listening to this, you can show your support in those simple ways. All right, let's get right into today's episode with Hundo.
Hey, there it is. All right.
Yeah.
What's up?
How's it going?
Oh, going well. How you doing, dude? Turn you up a little bit. There we go. All right. Just getting.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I just had dinner myself and chatted with Danielle Cosby earlier today, and trying to think. Video editing.
Yeah, full day.
Yeah, very full day. How was painting?
Oof. I'm like hoping I only got 2 or 3 more days on this house. It's been a month-long job on this one, and I have done a lot of work on it, and I'm like hitting those final points. It's like the final caulk on every room, and so I'm taping everything, and it's just like it's about to be perfection, but
Right.
yeah, so getting there though. Getting there, dude.
That's good. Yeah, I haven't done too many like painting jobs, like maybe through school or church growing up, but I can't say I'm trying to think when the last time. I don't know. I think I helped paint the exterior of a house, but it wasn't just me, and it definitely wasn't done when we were done with that week or whatever.
Remember a few of those when I was younger. Started when I was like 15, and I'm like, at some point I realized I literally have been doing this for almost 2 decades, and it's just like, oh, okay, turns out. So I couldn't even tell you how many I've done, and I'm about to go full time. I've been working at an office 40 and then doing this for 30 hours on the side, and I'm like, you know what, it's just time to paint full time. So I'm running my own show, man, and I'm excited about it.
Nice. Yeah, even just that simple feeling of like, you know, you make a decision that's like, it's still mine. Like it's my thing that I can focus time on and doing things, and versus like, you know, having the set hours and that corporate environment. It's nice to,
Yeah,
especially for the summer, like get outside and have that kind of work.
Yep, man, honestly, man, I just like appreciate being able to help people. Like it was something that I hated for so long, honestly, because I was like, oh, it's a job. And then finally it like got to a point where I began to appreciate it. And so it is like the thing that I'm actually really excited about at this point. I can do that and then do my music and have my schedule, my time, my freedom, you know, so make my own flexibility.
Yeah. Has that opened up any like extra time for creative stuff again? I don't know how the pandemic was. I mean, you know, everyone went through it differently. So I don't know if there was like projects in the works that were kind of put on the back burner, or you kind of gradually were working at like, yeah, I'm just curious of everyone's journey.
It was with it and just creating as much as they could, practicing, and it was honestly the exact opposite for me. It was the first time in my life that like true writer's block set in. Honestly, with this job, what I'm dealing with is incredibly heavy content and that was definitely playing a role. I have a lot of trauma that I'm dealing with, helping people every day in situations. And so like, I honestly was so overwhelmed through the whole thing, and I was working nonstop. And it was like, I am like almost ashamed to admit that I didn't have time or even like the inspiration. Like I would look at my instrument and just be like, I don't even know what to do with you right now. Honestly, like I'm so bummed out from everything I'm just dealing with right now. It was like, what do you want me to do with it? And lately, I mean, honestly, the past few months has finally been, as I make these decisions and, you know what I mean, I get excited about the kind of time slots that I'm able to open up, and I'm getting more practice and starting to play shows again. And like that energy is all coming back. I've been practicing and writing. So I got a 3-track EP that honestly was something that was in the works at the beginning of the pandemic. And I wish I could say I've made a ton of progress and it's ready to go. But I mean, realistically, I'm like right back at that point where I was. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to do this. And I want to get into a studio and I want to lay these things down and at least get those 3 out of the way. You know what I mean? Like find some closure on those things that have just been hanging for like 2 years now. And so make room for some new beginnings here, some new songs, new everything. So
yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling with there's certain things that I didn't work on over any quarantining or streaming or doing anything from home, and now I feel like in order to, I don't know, kind of open up to new ideas instead of like have this this list that's partially on my phone, partially archived on old Facebook videos, just wherever I could like record a little idea. Like I kind of want to get all those ideas done, in past the like idea stage into like, oh, this is ready to go into the studio or this is ready to perform, just trying to do things again.
Feel that honestly. And one of the things I do want to do is go right back through my old like music memo, voice memo thing in my phone, because there's like 100 wave files in there of 30 seconds, 1 minute guitar snippets that I'm like, all right, hey, I got to remember how to play whatever I was doing there. But like I've got a whole bunch of things that I can go back to. So yeah, I'm hoping the new music starts to flow here a little bit faster now that all the energy is going again. So
yeah. And is that with I mean, I've been hearing all sorts of different things with artists who've had like, they have stuff in the tank and then they have shows and they're trying to book, negotiate that space. There's people who they're only playing and then they're still working on, whatever material, but they're just gigging right now since gigs are coming back. And then, there's like, I think of like our last song with Earth Radio, the After the Plague, eventually we're going to play it, but it's definitely meant to kind of be a studio track because it's hard to replicate live some of the things we did. But yeah, I'm wondering like, cause you did those, what was it? The Mitten, Michigan shows.
yeah. Yep.
And that was like right before the pandemic too.
Yeah, honestly, that wasn't too well. Wait, yeah, I mean that was like within the year before.
True.
I played. It was like one of the last shows at Pyramid Scheme, right before COVID hit, and so it was like, oh well, at least I got that one. You know what I mean? At least I could kind of close on that for a while. And so, yeah, I played just an LGBTQ artist showcase in Muskegon last week. Actually, it was like on my birthday, and it was a great time. Like that was actually an awesome way to like have a first, show coming back and get back out there and scare some old ladies out of the room, which I felt bad about. it was. But yeah, I got one show coming up. It's actually our 4th annual at this point. They call it the Hundo Fundo. I didn't name it. It's the Grand, and they it's a birthday party for one of my friends, Jeff Jacoby. And then every year they have this a fun race. It's not like a hardcore race, but they race and then they get to the bar. And as soon as they get to the bar, I'm set up and ready to go. Beers start going, and I'm like, it's honestly like a party. And so we got that on July 31st at Point Bar in Grand Rapids. But I actually haven't booked anything else. I've been working so freaking much. Like I just wanted to kind of get those tracks recorded. Honestly, I was more focused on studio at this point and like getting all of that polished. And if I end up doing it with the tracks that I made, honestly, I try to find a band human be on me, but we'll see where it goes. And if it ends up being just one of my solo things, it is what it is. But we'll see how it pans in a couple months.
Yeah, definitely. You just seeing, any sort of progress. I'm just happy when I see like anybody doing anything after the year that especially musicians and other artists faced, of just, that weird feeling of like you're always trying to like like, oh, let's reflect on the past shows, past experiences, let that inform present decisions, upcoming shows, and then always trying to book, however many months ahead so you can be ahead of your working schedule, and then to have like everything just vanish and be like, well, my year's planned out, it's just nothing.
Yep. No, I feel like I had a couple Detroit shows that I was excited about in the works right when COVID hit, and so it's things I'll get to. I'm excited to play new cities. I've honestly only ever played Grand Rapids primarily, a little bit here in Lansing, but like I would like to play in other places, and so I was like so excited about that. And then COVID, and it just is what it is. It'll come with time, and it just roadblocks are what they are. So get around them eventually.
Right. And so you're mainly in like I don't want to reduce it to just like it's metal because it's, there's all those nuances within rock and metal. But is it because I see people who do, and I've seen bands, and the genre exists in Michigan and has a history, but
all right, listen, Joe and Stinson just came out here.
Oh, really?
We found a rainbow.
Hello. It's going good. Just just chatting, hanging out, all that good stuff.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
A wild Dutch out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to our abode. This is our humble little Lansing shack.
Oh, nice.
Now back. Great spot for sunsets and such.
Yeah, I didn't realize that because I knew you were involved with, like you go to their shows and you're a big fan. I didn't even know you were living with them.
Jonah is so we've and it's just like I don't know. I was with the band in the beginning, like the early days, and I would always do whatever goofy shit I could on stage and help with everything I could. And I am working a lot more, so I can't help as much as I'd like. But it's like I help whenever I can. It's like one of my favorite things in the world to just like be there. Like being a solo artist. This is one of the things that actually like means a lot to me because like a lot of what I do is on my own. And so like as cool as it is to do the things that I like to play, there's like a whole different energy with this, and like being a part of something that is like way bigger than just a single musician and the energy that comes with it. Like this is like the happiest memories of my life, so it's about all I got on that.
Yeah, that's more than enough. It's cool when you like find, because I noticed that about the Michigan scene. There's a lot of support, and then it turns into cross support, and then there's like you see a lot of the same types of supporters at a lot of events, whether it's like, oh, I volunteered through YCE, or I'm helping a band, or I make soap.
I hear you. Hello, directed your way. Sorry.
Oh. Hello back. Yeah. One thing I noticed at a real brief pause, your end of the feed was lagging a little bit
Okay.
when you were starting to talk about the history with the band. I know you said you've known them for a long time.
Oh yeah. You want me to talk, like say that again? Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just with them in like the early days of the band. Actually, like before they were Rainbow Seekers, when it was Loon, and my other buddy was vocals, and they came together, and I was kind of already in the mix. And then I just, at whatever point, helped with all the gear, and then was doing all the stupid stuff that I could, and just being goofy on stage and trying to, kind of like be the hype man at the time. Things have changed a little bit, but I don't get to work with them and do shows with them as often, just because I've been working like crazy. But it's like the happiest times of my life, honestly, like being with a group and like that much energy, rather than just like my solo project, which gets kind of lonely sometimes, just hammering away in your room at whatever. But like, this is like one of my favorite places to be, is wherever the Rainbow is. It's my favorite place ever.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing all the social media they post, and I've seen some of their shows. Like they definitely do a good job of like, you feel the community around what they're doing, rather than just like that kind of weird, like, it's like they've gone past navigating like the artist to audience thing of like, how do we get to know a bunch of strangers? It's like they're all just one big family.
Family now. Turns out.
Yeah, makes things nice when you can like spend a ton of time doing stuff. Like you were saying, doing stuff solo can be draining, so to have a group to like be able to like bounce energy and topics, whatever, off of is always great.
It comes tenfold. You know what I mean? It's like these guys, they're just favorite group of humans. But
yeah. Well, and I'm curious too with the I mean, you mentioned booking, or mentioned doing the LGBT event. That was with Patty also, right?
For sure. Yep.
Yeah. Are you kind of in a combination of like you can book metal venues, you can book, the LGBT events, you can book, like, I'm sure there's a variety of things you can kind of fit your stuff into.
Kind of like there's an awesome versatility in it that was actually like hard for me to accept at first, because I wanted to be on the metal bills and I wanted to be like opening for the bands, because I thought, maybe a solo metal act would be a good way to open a show, because it doesn't like kind of desensitize like metal shows can, where after 5 bands, like, sometimes it all starts to sound the same. And it's like, I thought I would always land on those bills, and I never did. And so I ended up doing, breweries. I've done the coffee shops, I've done, whatever actual venues. It's just like, I'm all over the place, honestly. So wherever, whatever comes up. The UICA had me play a formal gala once, and that was like the coolest thing ever. Everybody's like black tux, and I was just like, this is great. I really like a formal metal show. This is awesome. Like, yeah, I can play all over the place. I appreciate that now,
Yeah, it's like, in a way, you have this like, it's almost like you have a songwriter element, but it's like, like being a solo act, but also presenting music as a solo act. It's like, you're not strictly the person who's, doing a Jason Mraz cover. You're the person who's like kicking in the door and being like, hey, here's something different.
Here's the song I wrote. I hope you like it.
Yeah, hope you dig what I wrote, and here we go. And then you start shredding.
Like, I still feel like I take like the open mic approach. I'm just like, here's my music, and then let it do. I'm like, I'm really bad at like actually being metal. I'm like much more, as it turns out, I just like playing metal.
Right. And well, and sometimes that could be a cool effect if like the person's, comes off stage. I think of like when I met Dillinger Escape Plan, and they had spent their whole set, like jumping off of drum risers and amp stacks and just going crazy the whole set. And then as soon as I walk over to, they had posters and they were doing some signings, they were all very like, oh, hi, thanks. Yeah, thanks so much. Like very calm. And I'm like, you guys are so relaxed. You must all just go out on stage.
Yeah. I wish I could do that. I honestly wish I could, put that much more into it, but like I start to goof up and I'm like, no, I'd rather, nail this part. And I wish I could thrash around a little bit more, but oh well, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's like you want to do all the cool moves and then you're like, wait, I can't. If I take my hands away from this pattern, I won't play it.
Shut up and nail it. But
yeah. Is it, speaking of I don't know, venues, Lansing, is anything left? Or
I know Max just went down. I think Avenue is still going. Avenue has cool shows, and then they've got like the 2-story. They have the loft up top, and then there is the loft downtown Lansing, which I believe is still going. There used to be one over by the university in like it was like an art space of some sort, but I don't know if that's still going. But honestly, other than that, I have no idea. I think those would be the only ones that I even know about around here. But
yeah, I'm always hopeful that Lansing can have some more spots. It's, I don't know, there's enough. I feel the community of like the MSU folks, even though I didn't go there, I just see them all over the place. And, I think of some of the shows I saw at the Loft and just, having those moments of like, where does anyone play in the city? Where can people do things?
in East Lansing, there's like the co-ops and the house shows and whatnot, but like that's for younger bands. You know what I mean? Like once you're over 21, good luck. There's only a few venues over here. So, that's why I was mostly Grand Rapids, even because even Lansing, there wasn't, I only got a few shows out here in the couple of years I've been here. So, it just is what it is. We'll get back into the flow of things and find the venues that are still going and, get things rolling again.
Yeah, definitely. Regarding your guitar, that BC Rich guitar?
Yeah. Yep. That is my tried and true 15, 17 year old. That guitar is old, man. And I'm like,
wow.
Actually blows my mind. I'm like, how have I not actually bought a new guitar? I just bought a half stack last week. I bought myself a birthday present and got myself a Marshall finally. And guitar is next. It's time. Honestly, I was playing the starving artist game for a long time and I was not making enough money at most of my jobs to buy new gear. And so I was just stuck with that for so long. Pandemic came. I was working nonstop, and it's like I finally, for the first time, actually have money that I can put into gear, and like that's mostly what I'm focused on right now. Is like honestly upgrading everything that I have, and honestly upgrading my music too, like my actual recorded music, because everything I've done was home studio because I couldn't pay to go to the studio, and so it's like I was proud of the fact that I did it all, but like, did it sound as good as it could have? No. And so that's what I'm just like, I'm sick of sharing music that I know is like still not quite there. And just like, I want to kind of raise the bar for myself in all the ways, gear, recording, performance. So, I'm taking lessons for the first time in 20 years, I think. And so it's like, I want to come back with I want to say come back with a vengeance, but I want to come back with like a loving vengeance. I don't know how to say that, but I just want to have a different energy about it. So
yeah. And you're taking lessons. Is it like a remote thing, or did you find someone in the city who kind of
just online things, but I want to find a teacher here that would be like really well suited for, you know, what I'm trying to do and the sound that I'm going for. So that is my next goal, is to find a human instructor. But yeah, I mean, it's just like things that I never did were like basic music principles. Everything I did was by ear. I just taught myself, and I never learned anything, honestly. And so like there's a part of me that's like, hey, let's go back to basics and like get some fundamentals down, and then start to implement some things into what I do, and I don't know, we'll figure it out. But I got a lot of learning to do still, so I want to increase, I don't know, just the things that I can't do. It drives me crazy to go to a metal show and just watch these shredders, and I'm like, man, you know what, it's time, like let's finally be able to do that. So that's what I'm going for. New tricks in the bag.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's something that, you know, it's a good reminder for young musicians that, you know, you might get to a point where you feel super comfortable on a gig, or, you know, playing the type of music you're going to play, but, you know, there's always going to be new music, new experiences. There's never like, there's not like a, like, I'm the CEO of music. Like everyone keeps learning, you know, like I think of like Herbie Hancock, like he's, you know, on paper awards, like just iconic artist, but he's still like, you know, he'll show up to Pharrell's studio and want to sit in on something he's doing, or, you know, go to FaceTime Jacob Collier and learn some crazy new theory thing he can apply to a solo or something.
And that's what I'm like, honestly, theory, I fell short. I did it for like 2 years in the beginning, and I was like, no, I just want to play. All right, so ignorant kid mindset won for a while, and you know, it's time to go back and learn a few things.
Yeah, and then you learn a lot of rules that you end up breaking later, but you understand like both the rule and why it's breaking it. And
You know why I'm breaking this rule, please?
yeah, I think of I watched a video of Jacob Collier explaining. I think he was just explaining in general, like that with, because he nerds out with like microtonal voice leading and like, you know, these things that people can't easily replicate. But in doing those types of weird, like note between note voice leadings, or unconventional like tension and resolution between keys, it's like he's proving, because he throws it all like in his music a ton, and it's like he's proving that you know, the human ear is kind of just like it understands on a, you know, a subconscious level, like, oh, direction, like it's not going to be like, that was a weird, like we went from this key to this key without any sort of, you know, preparation or traditional theory or anything. And I think the metal world's done a good job of like, you know, kind of exceeding expectations. Like there's always that like sometimes not so friendly, but friendly competition. Everyone's trying to get better. Everyone's trying to be heavier. Everyone's trying to, you know, put out a good product. It's, you know, it's crazy.
Honestly, that's like one of the things I kind of had to like stop and really analyze about, like, what am I trying to write realistically? Because like in the back of your brain, there is always that like competitive, like, I want to write the heaviest fucking thing possible, but like, how do you out heavy what already exists? And I'm like, honestly, given that I'm still only playing a 6-string that's dropped to be, I'm not even in 7-8 string world, which is just a whole nother animal once you get to those. And it's like, I can't out heavy what exists, but like what I can do is bring kind of like my flair and my personality to it, I guess. And so like a lot of what I've been working on is like kind of like funk gent, progressive, you know. And so it's like a little bit goofier now, and like I'm having more fun with it. And there's like, honestly, one of them, I straight up ripped the drums from Hot for Teacher because I love those drums, and I reprogrammed them, did it all. And it's just like the energy that comes with that, and then doing taps as fast as you can. Like, I love it. It's a whole different thing rather than just trying to be heavy for the sake of being heavy. And it's like, it gets old after a while, you know, like I want to throw those chugs in. Yes, obviously. But like, I want it to be, you know, worth it when it happens, you know, not just chugs for the sake of chugs.
Right. I think have you listened to Car Bomb at all?
No, I haven't.
Their most recent album, I think from 2 years ago. I can't remember what it's called, but that band's crazy because they have like they have a guitarist that's like, you know, he's using a 6-string, but he's, you know, throwing on like a layer of like, oh, everything's an octave down, and then like weird sparkles and weird pitch shifting noises, and
Thanks.
you know, it's a lot of the music isn't, you know, it's like math metal, so there's not a lot of like you'll get headbanging for a little bit and then they'll change the tempo or change the feel. But their heavy is crazy because they do, like, their drummer does a lot of like out of time fills. So whenever, like, you know, instead of like, oh, you hear the groove and like, oh, that's where it's hitting, you feel the backbeat, it's like they'll hit a chord and then he'll do some weird out of time fill, but they have like an in time hit.
Yeah.
So you just hear like
somehow the precision is still there.
Yeah, like it's very like they just hit it and you just hear like, and then and like as soon as he hits the cymbal, it's like another hit, and you're like, whoa, how do they count that?
Okay, I'm gonna have to listen to that. I appreciate that immensely. I'm like, for a long time in earlier days of me trying to, and so a lot of what I did was like percussively based in like weird time signatures and trying to be kind of like math metally. But I honestly, at this point, have like really come to appreciate the groove. Like, I think falling into the groove is honestly one of the more satisfying things, with a touch of the math metal and, you know, some of the wild stuff thrown in. But like, man, falling into the just hitting the headbangs, I don't know. There's something about it that's super satisfying.
Yeah, and like I think the last metal show, you know, it wasn't right before the pandemic. It was like in 2019. It was Car Bomb opening for Animals as Leaders and Periphery. Okay. And that, like, Car Bomb opening was like just watching it all happen in real time. And you're like, they must shed like crazy to be able to play this music. And then that's, you know, like that paired with, you know, two groovier and then one like even shreddier band, it's like they had the hardest job, as opposed to, it's like everyone expects Tozen to do some crazy like thump technique or some crazy 8-finger tapping riff. But with Car Bomb, it was like, you know, the audience would grab onto certain parts of it and then just kind of stare at the band like, wait.
Yeah, it's like almost my favorite part of metal sometimes, where you're just like, what? Like, dude, how? Who the fuck? Like, what do you want me to do with that? Come on. Like,
yeah, like what? You just gonna sit up there on stage and like just blow my mind like that?
Appreciate that. Now I gotta go think about that all night. Shit. Like,
that is one thing I got right away from. I mean, my first metal shows were like, you know, I think 2009. I went to Rockstar's Mayhem Fest, and that was like my first, like, it was my first festival, well, other than, you know, like Festival of the Arts. It was like first festival that I was attending, first anything metal. And then I think that was my first show I saw in Detroit ever. And yeah, that whole day was just like, you know, it's like 2009, like Whitechapel and Job for a Cowboy and all those classics now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I'd have to go back to that tonight.
Yeah, some of those, some of those bands I revisit them and I'm like, oh, they're still going, or like, man, I remember when this dropped and I couldn't stop listening to it.
I've been in such a Meshuggah and Periphery kick, and just kind of going back and forth between the two. And I mean, honestly, those are like two of my bigger influences right now, just in terms of like what I've been writing. I'm sure it'll kind of start to show through, but I'm kind of hooked on them right now. I get hooked on a discography or a couple discographies at a time, and then I just like hammer at them for months, and then at some point I'm like, all right, I should probably switch to a new artist. Like some now. But yeah, I'm like currently stuck in that loop right now. So
yeah, I definitely go through those periods. Sometimes it's as simple as like, I make the choice, since I have a CD player in my car, I'll just reach onto, my CD collection and pull something out. It's like, oh, I haven't listened to this album in 5 years. Let's just like play it in the car on this trip and remember, I don't know, listening to it in high school or something.
I literally found my high school CD booklet, and I've been going through those in the car at least, so I have a little bit of variation in my day, and it's kind of a trip to go back and listen to the things I listened to, and then find my 5 Cottonmouth Kings CD and just like absolutely hilarious. But yeah, good times.
Yeah, and yeah, it's, and listening, it's funny because like some people, if they know me as a musician, they get why I listen to metal, but if they don't know me at all, they're confused because there's nothing about me that's other than like maybe just letting my hair grow out that I listen to metal.
Metal and classical, like, you have the ability to play things that would transcribe so well into metal. Like, knowing how you play, I'm like, man, I would actually love to hear you do keys behind metal or do the synth, you know what I mean? And like, it would be massive with your sound behind the riffs. So like, honestly, I would love to hear that. That'd be great.
Yeah, well, and I'm totally open to it because I grew up as we all do, and I remember when I grew up. Oh, 8th grade. In 8th grade, my friend Matthew Niemeyer, I don't know if you've met Jeffrey Niemeyer at all.
I don't think so.
Okay, he plays with he's a violin player who also plays electric violin, and he'll play with like Fograss and bluegrassy bands like that. But he also does, and with John Hansen, a project called Saltbreaker, and he'll do like ambient electric viola pedal stuff. But Matthew's his brother, and Matthew gave me a bunch of CDs that he didn't burn as playable CDs. He just used them as storage drives. So he would give me like 40 songs on a disc that I could upload on my computer, and he just gave me a bunch of them. Yeah, and through that, I was introduced to Dream Theater, and as soon as I found out keys could exist in metal, I was like, all right, I gotta find some project to do it on.
I'm like, man, Lutz. I think at some point moving back to Grand Rapids will eventually be in my future, as much as I really don't want to leave this house. You know what I mean? Like, I love being here. It's just like, everything I have is honestly Grand Rapids, all my people, my whole network, everything. So it seems like that'll be the thing at some point. But I'm like, I'd love to collaborate with you on any kind of metal project. That'd be fucking awesome, dude. I would love that. So totally down.
Yeah, and I what am I thinking about? Synths. Omnisphere. That's what I was thinking about. I have that software, and there's thousands and thousands of presets made by different contributors, and so much of it is like especially like being able to make a user bank of like your favorite sounds. It's fun just like going in there and being like, oh, this sounds like, you know, that record, or this sounds like, oh, you know, I'm the keyboard player for Symphony X now, or this sounds like a Dragon Force tone, or this, and then just like making little notes of like Dragon Force sound. And
Putting your own names on everything is my favorite. No. Goofy names all the way down that list. But
yeah,
dude, that is one thing, because like all of my tracks, I do my best making a virtual orchestra, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm no violinist. I just basically kind of harmonize with my own guitar lines, or even, you know, just do them verbatim or whatever. It's like really simple orchestra, but like I would honestly love to have, you know, people who actually play these instruments and like write that well. You know, I feel like it would make a whole difference in everything that I've written too. You know, I feel like it would actually like bring it to life a little bit instead of feeling like computer program. Like, you know, I just need to breathe some life into that. But yeah, man.
yeah. So is it a thing with upgrading that you want, you know, like, oh, I use these for drums and I have my sights on this thing for drum demos, or is it mainly like hardware that you're looking to upgrade?
I mean, for like demoing and doing my own stuff at home, I do want to buy a new program just because running off the same path, you know, a decade at this point. It's like, yeah, it's time to upgrade everything, all my samples and you know, everything that I'm using. I did only, you know, get so good at Ableton, and I'm still trying to get better at it, but it's like I have literally just not had the time to put in to practice and play with things like I used to. And so that's the hard part, where I'm like, you know, at this point it's best to just accept what I'm strongest at, and that is playing and writing, and I should bring it to a studio where someone can do what they're amazing at. And you know what I mean? Like, it's time to just figure out what I'm best at and put my energy on that. So, but yeah, a real drummer would be ideal. You know what I mean? At this point, like, good God, I've, you know, been fortunate enough to, you know, jam with Rainbow Seekers and Funk Parade and, you know, other friends whenever, just like instances of getting to jam with real humans. And it's like the best time ever, but it's like, I just have not found my crew, you know what I mean? Like, just haven't found the project that has come together yet. But that is the goal. That is honestly my like true focus, is real humans at this point. So
Yeah, well, and in your case, it's like you've built a lot of your sound and what people know you for, so it's like it's just, you know, pushing up the volume on that, and people just, you know, being like, oh yeah, why haven't I hit this person up to like collab on anything? Like, I'm a drummer, I'm a bit, it's like a better version of like those sad posts you see on like Craigslist of like, hey, I'm a 42-year-old bass player.
yeah,
Help.
dude, honestly, I've tried, even back in the day, I literally went through every one of those, and I was like, okay, there's like a 1% chance that this could be something. There's like, man, I jammed back in the day with as many people as I could. I was like, none of these are clicking. You know, it's not the chemistry. And I'm like, that is honestly what I am looking for too. It's not just like someone to jam with. I'm waiting for the click. You know what I mean? And that whatever that is, you'll know it when you know it. So that's kind of what I've been holding out for.
Yeah, and hopefully not running into situations like I remember someone's launching fireworks. Perfect timing. You know, I remember back when I was at Grand Valley, I think my freshman year, there was someone had posted you know, like an ad with a tear off number for like, hey, looking to start a metal band. And then I was like, okay, like I want to keep playing guitar, so let's see what's going on. And I get there and it's like, okay, he's got an amp, I'll use that amp. He's got a drum set. I guess he's a drummer. There's nobody else there. It's just me and him. And we like kind of, it was like he had that kind of drumming that's like he's new to it. Like he can do things, but his stamina is like, all right, and done.
Yeah, I feel that. And I'm like, that honestly, back in the day, cool to jam with people just to jam. But I'm like, I truly don't have the time that I wish I did to just jam. And so it's like, if I am, able to jam with people, it needs to be, I guess, kind of on that level where it's like, hey, we are both kind of, invested in this project and we're, trying to really do something with it because this is what I've wanted my whole life, like I realized that I guess I took a step back for a few years dealing with all the stuff that I was dealing with founders and everything else, transitioning and, literally me just dealing with like an entire life of trauma realistically and a lot of things that I never stopped to deal with. And so I took a step back from music and it's been kind of unique to see how like me not being like upfront promo all the time, people kind of are starting to think that I've like given it up. And I'm like, oh, that is not it at all. I just had some things I needed to take care of. And honestly, now I'm kind of coming back with everything that I wish I would have had a decade ago, but whatever, it is what it is. And I'm here now and I've got it now. So, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, not to be like headstrong, but I am excited because I'm like, hey, I finally have gear. I finally have the ability to do some things that I wish I could have done so long ago. So, I'm excited for it and looking for a real human who's just as serious about it.
Yeah, and I know I probably speak for a lot of Grand Rapidians that we're excited to get some new tunes in the works.
I'm like, it's my favorite thing in the world to be able to play for people. So, to get back to it finally, like, feels good. And also to turn that to 11 and literally feel it again finally, like, that is my favorite thing in the world. The subwoofer and a half stack going straight through your chest. Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever done a show with Tiny Tree at all?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. What is it? Addison Ehlers and Paul Jensen out of Muskegon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you said, amp and sub, I think of our show. We did a show. It was Earth Radio and then Tiny Tree with, his Addison's got like a modified 6-string with like, I think it's 9 strings. I think he doubled up the first 3 strings, the lower 3. And then he modded his guitar to have like a split guitar and kind of bass dedicated signal.
Okay, I got you for sure.
So it's like one riff is like, you could see how much sound it's going to come out and you feel it immediately.
Yeah. Oh yes, I have definitely seen that setup before where it's split and then it's just a lot of like single string and then one routes to bass and then one's, yeah. I'm like, honestly, I thought about that for a while. If I could even find just a drummer, I'm like, we'll figure the bassist out. I have an idea in the meantime. But yeah, I'm like, whatever it ends up being, honestly, at this point, I'm like, a drummer and a DJ, a 3-piece, I think would also be an awesome thing. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it ends up being, I don't even care. I just want to jam with people. I just want to actually have a sound and, find something to dial in on a project with people.
Yeah, it makes me think of this artist Algorithm that like, he started as a solo artist doing metal with like electronics, and then I think he's got a small live band now, but it's like still covering, it's like having more live representation of all the stuff that he's creating just in his DAW.
Yeah, I honestly, one of the things that I am still set on doing this at this point. It's just a matter of like, when do I have the money to invest in this? But I want to build a mobile stage, and basically I'm going to buy a box truck or a bus and turn it into something that I can, sleep into and basically just take to festivals and do after hours stages in the woods, and then just set up my PA, have a light rig, and you know what I mean, do my shows kind of on the fly wherever, you know, like why even, I guess, wait for venues and, you know, that kind of booking, where in the meantime, I could just go to whatever exists. And honestly, that might help me get on some more bills, just having a little bit of visibility. So, you know, I'm just kind of going to do whatever I can to, you know, play where I can and see what happens with it.
Yeah, that's all you really can do is just, you know, I don't have, you know, things that necessarily have my name on them as like, you know, like my name's on Earth Radio stuff, obviously, but like the stuff that's just mine with my name on it. And yeah, it's like, I feel like I only advertise what I'm up to because I'm involved in so many things. And it's like people know me as like oh, he, you know, plays piano, he does a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit and yeah, it'll be interesting. Like the residencies I had at the listening room were kind of a first test of this, of like what happens when I'm at the steering wheel, like what's going to happen.
That's awesome. And how did it feel? I mean, the difference between them.
Yeah, I thought it felt great. I had, you know, I rotated 2 different trios, my Project Normal mode with Ian Thompson and Nathan Coles, and then just a trio under my name, with the bass player who's studying at MSU right now, John Muir Cotton, and Madison was on a lot of those gigs. But I thought it went well overall, and then I got better at being on mic and kind of being a host of some kind. So that felt good.
That's like the hardest part, swear to God. Like me on the mic, I'm like, man, I thought I'd be better at this, but turns out I'm awkward as hell on the mic. Like, I'm just gonna shut up and play. Best MC anymore. And that was like, I did the Made in Michigan event, and that was kind of where I was like, maybe I shouldn't have a microphone, you know? Maybe not my strong.
Right. It's like, well, until you do it, it's like you don't know. Like, I guess I will just, you know, create an experience around my show where I don't need to talk.
I'm like, I might go back to that for a little bit. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I feel like the people who like, they're known, you know, like Dead Mouse or Marshmallow, any of these people with like something over their face. I'm like, that's cheating. Like, you just get to wear whatever expression you want to convey to the audience all the time, and then you just move around.
Things I've considered, the bucket head route. I'm like, man, he's onto something. I like that. Like, gotta go find something goofy to put on my face.
Yeah, and then you just go even more meta, where you're like, it's now a brand, and there's, you know, like there's just, you pick an outfit, and then like some other artist is also representing it. It's like, wait a minute, who's the real one? It's
copycat, just come out as the metal version of Marshmallow.
Right. Yeah. Marshmallow.
Yes, this is it. My new side project to get sued.
Right. Yeah. Well, and when you mentioned like, you know, having to get to a better place to, yeah, I mean, obviously you went through a ton of stuff to get to the point you are now, feeling way more confident and secure, and like, it's like, all right, I have a foundation. There's no rug that's going to be pulled under again, or some crazy circumstance. I was, I don't know if you follow Rick Beato at all. He's kind of like old man YouTube music at this point.
Gotcha.
And, you know, he very, very proficient guitarist, a lot of creative exercises and ideas that he does. He first went viral in modern internet, I guess, because he ear trains his son, and his son's got really good, like, like stupid perfect pitch.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll have to check it out. I'm definitely curious.
Yeah, he did a video that was talking about what was he talking about? I just lose my train of thought. We were just talking about
And son with perfect pitch and exercises that he does.
Yeah, it was something to do with it was him talking about a certain artist. That'll come back to me. I know I brought it up for a specific reason, but
Full circle.
yeah, I think it was just that he's like, I mean, he speaks to a lot of different topics, so he's just a useful person in general to kind of see, like he'll filter things through his old man lens, but he'll also talk about trends and like lobbying for creatives, to be able to exist and get monetized online. Like he goes to Congress and like he's equal parts industry pro, yeah.
Nice. Honestly, goals at some point. I'm like, that is kind of where I feel like eventually, like as much as I wish I could, live on just my music, I'm like, reality is like, I'm going to have to find another way to, be part of the industry rather than just on stage, and so that is something where in due time, I would like to maybe not so much, industry at large, but I would like to in communities, at least. I want to open the venue and like an actual community and actually build out a music community, buy land and, do the whole thing. But honestly, I want to disappear into the woods at some point and just have a stage in a village and a farm. And I'm like, dude, I have a retirement plan for the kind of, music community I'd like to see. And I'm like, screw it, I'll just build it. Like I can build all the things. So I've got some.
Yeah, well, and it's great that I've heard a couple other folks who like, they've started in new industries because of the pandemic, but it's a move that has them motivated to like, like, oh, I want to start, this thing that I don't see happening in the city because I know it would benefit like, these people. It's like, we don't need another, like it's expensive lofts and a boutique shop. And this is a food Californians eat that you're going to try now.
No, for real. That is honestly where I think if there is kind of a grand theme of, the direction I guess I'm heading with music as I get older, it is really to, reinvest in the community. And, as much as I would love to be a national artist, if that happens someday, cool. But if not, I would really like to actually lend and, create something for next generations of musicians coming up. If there's one thing I can do, I do think it really could be that. So, that is kind of the grand scheme of getting older and see what I can build, honestly, probably for Grand Rapids. It seems to be where my heart cannot get away from, no matter how much I've tried. I swear to God, I've moved away from that city like 4 times now, and I keep getting drawn back. So, it seems like that could end up being where I put some roots down and start building some things, honestly. So,
yeah, that's definitely a good long-term plan. That's like, it just, there's so many ways that it can like, help, artists feel comfortable, confident, audiences have another place to like feel safe going to see music, that's what I hope more people have going forward with their venues. It's like a lot of them were hit hard with the pandemic, but there was also those moments of reflection of like, oh yeah, this place is really toxic, and like, why does this person still work the door? Like, they're clearly a bad person. Or why does this person, it's like there's so much of music culture that doesn't get called out as much because it's like there's that feeling of like, oh, I got to make sure everyone's my friend, and then it's like, but wait, I should speak out on certain things, and then other people might be afraid. Oh, fireworks.
I'm just gonna shift sideways.
But yeah, it's a great set of ideas to have. But I also just remembered why I brought up Rick Beato. Basically, yeah, it was speaking again to like, being in the right place to do music. He was doing a video on Martha Argerich, who, she's in her 80s and like is one of those people that you're like, how are you in your 80s and you can still like play 50-minute memorized complex pieces with symphonies. And the two things he mentioned about her that I thought were interesting, one, that at the height of her career, because she started super young, like she was one of Argentina's like darling exports. It's kind of like Long for China, but Martha Argerich is that for Argentina. And she, at like the height of her career where she was like cresting into like, peak youthfulness to play the piano at peak perfection, like that kind of sweet spot, like kind of like for athletes even. And she spent, I think, 3 years just in her apartment in France, like just depressed and watching TV and didn't play the piano like hardly at all. And I thought that was interesting, like, literally pumping the brakes hard on that level of fame. And then even now in her 80s, like people love her, but she's notorious for being like, if she's not totally comfortable, like she'll just cancel the show. So she'll get, she still has to deal with like super intense anxiety. So if you buy a ticket to her show, it's like, hopefully she plays it. She just might cancel.
Yeah, that's hard.
But
I feel that though. You know what I mean? I was like, that is very relative, I think, to the feelings I was having at the time, where just it did feel like the rug got completely pulled out from under me, and I was like, you know what am I even doing? Like, I'm just gonna disappear for a while. I did the Mitten, Michigan show, and like I honestly had like no inspiration really, that new inspiration that had come all the way around until COVID. There wasn't much that I'd done. It was literally that 3-track EP, and it was just like, still, I was struggling to write that. And so it was like, as I'm trying to get that light to come back on. But yeah, it's a thing where kind of to go back to what we were actually talking about before, with safer venues, was something that I actually really did want to touch on. Those are exactly the things I'm talking about, honestly, like being, I've been a survivor advocate for the last year and a half, and, I was always helping a lot of women in different situations before that anyways. And it's something that is just the most important to me, and considering the things that I've been through, it is something that is so crucial to have venues where people can actually feel safe and not have to question whether the head of security is an abuser himself. Like, I'm sorry, but that is just red fucking flags. And I'm like, that is no questions, should not be happening. I will speak to that loudly every time. I don't care if it is a beloved venue or a beloved person. I will raise it in a respectful manner, but man, if you're employing abusers knowingly, willingly, intentionally, and you're putting other people's safety at risk, I've got some serious problems with that. And that is a venue I will not play at. I will support the women who are calling that out in the venues that they are speaking to. That is very real, very serious. And that is actually something that I have plans for my own organization specifically, and this is something that I really want to see happen across the city, every venue. I want to see new standards in bars for how these things are handled, and maybe it is just a community by community thing. Maybe this is just Grand Rapids that, you know, we can impact with this, but I actually do have some solid plans in line that when I get back to Grand Rapids, I'm going to be going bar to bar, and I'm going to be having a discussion with every bar owner about what can we do to make this safer for women? How do we stop so many women getting roofied every night at different bars? That shit is unfucking acceptable. Cannot happen anymore. Will not happen. And so that is, you know, the things that I can contribute to the music community at this point. I feel like it's going to be in that vein. You know what I mean? Like, I want to make this safer for everybody involved. I want to make it better. You know, just those are the things that I really would like to see happen, short of, you know, my own musical aspirations. Yes. But like, man, I just want the community to be what we want it to be, you know, what we've always hoped it was. We pull the covers back a little bit and realize there's some ugly shit happening underneath, but none of it is, you know, beyond fixing. None of this is beyond repair. These are all things we can handle. We just literally have to address them within the music community. And so, you know,
Yeah, and that's such an important thing to, like, you know, with the pumping of the brakes for all live music. I would hope that, you know, a ton of people like took stock. Yeah. It's like, I think, you know, it's like business owners, okay, you know, they don't want their business to close, so that's obviously what they're thinking about. But another way you don't close is you provide a space that people feel welcome and comfortable in. Not just dollars for whatever.
Like, you can be whatever legendary dive bar, hole in the wall. I don't give a shit. If you're not a safe place for women to go, if you're not a safe place for anyone to go, man, like that's an issue, you know? So just my thoughts, at least. Maybe I'm a little bit headstrong about bias, but, you know, just things that I'd like to see change, at least.
No, I agree. I think of, like, that's always been an issue I've seen happen with music academia, especially the relationship between, you know, young, impressionable, you know, students who are very driven to, like, get accepted into some, you know, circle and get access to the network and the gigs and the opportunities. And, you know, I think it was at U of M that there was a violin teacher who got fired because of just more than one case of, like, inappropriate everything with different students. And come to find out that, you know, reading the profile on, you know, the dude from a report, he had been hired in the 90s by the school, and it was after he had been let go from a different school for the same issues that were brought up, you know, 15 years later when he got let go from U of M. And I'm like, why was it, you know, like, why wasn't there an immediate, like, hey, this guy got fired for doing bad things with students?
Maybe we should consider.
Yeah, so like, there was that, and then, you know, on the weird end too of like teachers convincing students to, like, almost be involved in an MLM, like a, you know, just hawking makeup products. It's like, it's such a vulnerable, and that's kind of the same thing with venues. It's like, you want to put your best face for, you know, someone who's booking, the owner. You want to get a shot on the stage. You want to build a relationship, but it's so much easier, I feel like, to know who you don't want to interact with and just cut them out of your sphere of under, you know, like, obviously, like, call attention to, you know, problems and stuff, but in terms of saving yourself some sanity, like, if you have a bad vibe or you have had a bad experience at a place, then it's like, you don't have to, there's no one telling you have to play anywhere.
No. That is that, you know, without going too deep into, you know, the things that happened to me, it did hurt when, you know, the place that was like my home stage, you know, was a place that I was not even allowed into anymore. They banned me. And it's like, I cannot even explain what that did to me at the time. But in retrospect, and, you know, getting 3 years beyond it and having, you know, hopefully a little bit more wisdom about what happened, you know, it is a thing where I do realize I get to be, you know, selective. I get to choose, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I guess just trying to refocus that energy instead of it being a thing they imposed upon me, and making it something where it's like, you know what? No, fuck you. This is my choice. I'm never coming back to you, you know? And that is, I guess, the way I'm trying to look at it. For what it's worth, I mean, it still fucking hurts. I'm not gonna lie. That every time I think about it, that shit hurts. And you know, I don't know if there actually will ever be a point that I'll totally get over that. That one, that was a burn, and that was a place that I considered family, you know, and I took that like, fuck, I took that to heart, man. So, it is really hard to know that some of the most visited venues in our city are also home to some of the most abusive people in positions of leadership. But it is what it is. They're things that we'll address, you know, as we move forward through the years. And, you know, hopefully reputations like that start preceding the companies, and people just stop going there for shows. People stop playing there. Maybe once artists really come to see what was happening, they'll be like, shit, I don't even want to play there anymore. Like, that's kind of how I've approached it. And honestly, there's a lot of people who have supported me and have done the same thing, and they haven't played there since. And so, you know, it just is what it is. Have the impact you can have, where you can have it, when you can have it. So
Yeah, and it's great that you have, like, obviously, you know, something that horrible happening, and then, you know, having to process through it, but coming out the other end with kind of a new resolve to, like, I mean, it's come up multiple times, like, you just want to help people, like, whether it's painting something, getting them acclimated to a music scene, collaboration, like, you just want to be this person that's like, yeah, I'll help you move. I'll help you, you know, take care of your garden. I don't know, like, just community.
favorite, dude. That's absolutely my favorite. So, yeah, I'm like, if it ends up being that, you know, I am traditionally successful at music in that way, cool. But like, the way I see it in, you know, my own way, I'm like, I've already been successful in this way. You know, I've got friends that I could not have asked for, you know what I mean? Just like some of the most amazing people, amazing memories, shows, you know, the times that we've already had at shows. Like, you know, I have come to find that that is a different kind of success. And, you know, if I can get the other kind too, sweet. But whatever, man. Like, I'm having a good time with the community at this point, and I've really come to love and appreciate, like, my place in it. So
Yeah, definitely. And it's great to, like, you know, have you a part of it, as, you know, someone who can help a lot of people, but also come from a, you know, a very diverse background. You know, metal's not a genre a lot of people play, but the way you utilize it and the spaces you're able to go into, it's like a fun look at someone who's like this. It's like the personalities popping up more than it's just like, oh, it's that, like, the, you know, the scaring the old people. It's not just that. It's like this cool thing that pops up in unexpected places, or expected places, I guess, too. But yeah,
pop-up metal shows, I think that is very much a thing that's coming soon. I just gotta literally build the rig. You know, at this point, I've been doing it out the back of my truck, but I want to do it out of something that's like big enough to be the stage, you know. So figure that out.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on here, sharing more about yourself and what you're passionate about. I know listeners will enjoy the fierce community aspect, because that's kind of what this podcast is all about, Michigan folks. And if one theme has come through everything, is that everyone I've talked to loves the aspect of community. So
but I'm glad that I'm so happy that you had me on, and got to talk a little bit. It's been a while since we've gotten to talk, man. Thank God, it's been 2 years since I've probably seen you, and it doesn't even feel like that. But yeah, dude, I'm excited to see you whenever I come back to Grand Rapids and we cross paths. I'm excited to catch Earth Radio and see all of you. So excited for everything to get going again, man. I appreciate you talking tonight.
yeah, anytime. And where should people find you, like social media, or is there like go here for everything?
Yeah, hundomusic.com, or if you, facebook.com/hundomusic, Instagram, Hundo Music. It's all Hundo Music, so wherever you go. Yeah, and honestly, I want to reach out to the Dogtown guys and do another three-song thing with them at some point. The last one I did was like the most fun I've had. God, that was a riot. So I'd love to do, the new 3-track with them and do a video for it too. So I don't know, we'll figure it out. I've got finally some new things in the works at least. So.
Awesome. Yeah, can't wait for that. And for anyone watching now, thanks for watching now. But if you're watching later when this comes out, you can support all the podcasting stuff I do. You could start as simple as subscribing to YouTube or following on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those places. You can go to patreon.com/Tracy Snedeker if you like getting little goodies and early episodes with your, 5, 10, $1 million. You could give me $1 million. And then DrSnedeker.com for the rest, all the things. But yeah, thanks again for coming on and chatting. This is great.
Dude, fucking appreciate it. Always happy to talk. Excited to see you for real.
Yeah, looking forward to crossing paths at some point. I wish I was playing more festivals. I feel like I'd run into you more likely there, but I don't know.
Crossing paths in the weirdest spots, but yeah, we'll figure it out. I'm sure it'll happen eventually here.
Well, awesome. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your night. Hopefully there's not too many fireworks or whatever that truck was.
Oh, yeah. We got all the exciting things over here. It's lively, so probably go eat some food finally, and another day of painting tomorrow. So,
Ooh, yeah, I got a video to edit, and then probably another video to edit.
Love it. Well, I'll catch you later, dude. Have a good rest of the night. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, appreciate you. See ya.
See you, dude.